Hello, everyone. Want to begin with this developing story out of the United States. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle, says she plans to quit following security lapses in the run-up to the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Cheatle testified for nearly 6 hours during a contentious House committee hearing on Monday, where she took responsibility for the security lapses and acknowledged that the incident marked the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle had called for her resignation, but it is unclear when she intends to step down. Speaking just a while ago, House Speaker Mike Johnson said her resignation is overdue and that she should have done this at least a week ago. He is, however, glad that she has heeded the call from both Republicans and Democrats. Now, hours after she succeeded in convincing Democrats she is the right woman for the job, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has hit the campaign trail, beginning at the campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware, where she attacked former U.S. President and Republican rival Donald Trump of being convicted of a crime. She is, however, set to begin her first campaign event as the Democratic frontrunner later today. Several battleground Democrats will be joining her, including Governor Tony Evers and Senator Tammy Baldwin. Harris also has the tough task of picking a vice presidential candidate. Her campaign has requested vetting materials from 5 potential vice presidential picks, with a list including North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, building Democratic backing for her sudden presidential run, rallied supporters on Monday with a debut campaign speech vowing to go after Republican nominee Donald Trump like the courtroom prosecutor she once was. Harris vows to call on her experience as a courtroom prosecutor in dealing with the Republican nominee, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump wants to take our country backward to a time before many of our fellow Americans had full freedoms and rights. But we believe in a brighter future that makes room for all Americans. Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
The speech to campaign workers in Delaware came just 28 hours after U.S. President Joe Biden stepped aside amidst questions about his age and health and endorsed Harris. The former California Attorney General and U.S. Senator also says that building up the middle class will be at the center of her presidency.
Together we fight to build a nation where every person has affordable health care, where every worker is paid fairly, and where every senior can retire with dignity. All of this is to say, building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
Harris went to work consolidating Democratic support for her presidential bid minutes after receiving President Biden's backing on Sunday. According to multiple sources late on Monday, she has secured support from a majority of delegates to the Democratic National Convention. That likely ensures she will become the party's nominee for president next month.
So in the next 106 days, we have work to do. We have doors to knock on, we have people to talk to, we have phone calls to make, and we have an election to win. So are you ready to get to work? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we willing to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America and Joe Biden.
Harris' campaign says it raised $81 million in the 24 hours following Biden's exit, the most for a single day in the 2024 campaign for either party.
As some Democrats were excited to move Kamala Harris forward as their party's presidential nominee, Following Joe Biden's withdrawal from the race, some Republicans said if Harris is chosen as the Democratic nominee, then she would be worse than Biden. Different U.S. lawmakers have given varied responses to Joe Biden's exit and Harris being the potential Democratic nominee. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who has remained influential since stepping down as the party's House of Representatives leader in 2022, backed Harris on Monday, adding to a parade of endorsements from key Democrats.
I know Donald Trump's type, and in this campaign I will proudly put my record against his. As a young prosecutor, when I was in the Alameda County District Attorney's Office in California, I specialized
And from Tinseltown, key Democratic fundraisers and celebrities in Hollywood appear to be throwing their support behind Kamala Harris's U.S. presidential campaign, greeting President Biden's exit from the race with a sigh of relief. Often described as an ATM for Democrats, the world's film and TV capital in Los Angeles has long been an important source of the party's campaign funds. On Monday, rapper Cardi B, actors Jamie Lee Curtis and Viola Davis, and TV producer Shonda Rhimes threw their support behind the U.S. vice president. A spokesperson for the Harris campaign said on Monday it had raked $81 million in the first 24 hours, the most for a single day in the 2024 campaign for either party. This coming after some celebrities and fundraisers had stopped donating money to the Democrats since Biden's disastrous debate in June. Some, such as George Clooney and others, publicly called out President Biden, urging him to end his campaign. He even wrote a frank op-ed for the New York Times that said Biden had to go weeks after he had hosted a hugely successful fundraiser for the president. Disney heiress Abigail Disney, who had called on Biden to drop out, said she was resuming her donations to Democrats and that she thought Harris would be an excellent candidate. In America's neighbor in the South, Mexico's President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum expressed her respect for American people's decision in the November election following President Biden's withdrawal from the race and the emergence of Vice President Kamala Harris in his place. Ms. Sheinbaum said she likes to see women participating in electoral processes, but she would also pursue a friendly and respectful relationship with the United States. Trump has said he would restore his 2019 Remain in Mexico program, which forced non-American asylum seekers attempting to enter the United States at the southern border to wait in Mexico for the resolution of their cases. Checking in on the Republicans, former President Donald Trump has been recounting the moment he was shot in the ear on July 13. Speaking on Fox News, he said there was a lot of blood. Trump was having the interview alongside his pick for Vice President J.D. Vance. The interview was pre-recorded just before President Biden announced he was stepping down from the race. The July 13 shooting at an outdoor campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, wounded Trump in the ear, killed one rally attendee and injured another. The suspected shooter, 20-year-old nursing home aide Thomas Crooks, was killed by law enforcement.
It was when they realized I was okay. They had a stretcher, and they wanted to put me on a stretcher, and I said, I'm not going on a stretcher, because I just felt it was the ear, and there was a lot of blood coming. I don't know if you've heard this, but the ear causes, they say, the most in the body. You get hit on the ear. They thought I was hit actually in this area. And I wasn't. I said, I'm telling you, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm going to get up. I want to get up. I'm not going to be taken out on a stretcher. And they thought it was over. They thought it was over when I went down because they saw the blood immediately. And then when I put the hand up, everybody was happy. That was the time. That was when they realized I was okay. And it's just an incredible country. It was a beautiful moment. The people on the stage were unbelievable and brave. They were all Secret Service that came running up, and they were running past bullets. Bullets were, when I went down, bullets were coming over my head, and you hear them. It's like a zip, zip.
Republicans have however, upped the ante on criticism for U.S. President Joe Biden. Trump's vice president pick, J.D. Vance, said he thought Biden had no capacity for the presidency this Saturday after Biden's announcement. Mr. Biden's withdrawal had come amid intensifying opposition within his own Democratic Party. He has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris in his place.
I was hanging out with my kids yesterday. We're actually swimming at the swimming pool, and somebody brought over their phone and showed me the news that Joe Biden had announced he was dropping out of this race. And look, I don't like Joe Biden, and I don't like his policies, and I'm not a Democrat primary voter. I never have been, and I never will be, unless something goes really wrong, ladies and gentlemen. This is not okay, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot, for 3.5 years, take a guy who clearly didn't have the mental capacity to do the job. Kamala Harris lied about it. My Senate Democratic colleagues lied about it. The media lied about it. Every single person who saw Joe Biden knew that he wasn't capable of doing the job. And for 3 years, they said nothing until he became political dead weight. That is not a way to run a country. That is not a way to run a political party. That is an insult to voters.
I want to bring in Channel Television's Washington correspondent, Maria Bird. She joins us now from Washington, the U.S. Capitol. Maria, great to see you as always. Let's begin with the developing story right now, which is head of the U.S. Secret Service, Kimberly Cheetle, announcing she will resign, though she hasn't said when. There's also coming, following mounting calls for her to do so from both sides of the aisle and the House of Representatives. When did it become clear during the 6-hour probe on Monday over the activities of the Secret Service on July 13 that she had no other choice but to step aside?
Kimberly Cheezel obviously was up against, she knew she was up in an uphill battle on July 13th when all this occurred. The hearing just kind of exasperated the issues. We know that we are typically, and we are majority Republican. We know where the Republicans sit at this time. We know that they are trying to ensure everything possible that the Republican Party is seen as a party that's able to bring the country forward. So we knew this was going to be a very challenging moment, and especially since we had an assassination attempt. I mean, that is the reality that I think Americans faced. As those moments obviously were ones that, regardless of what party you stood on, you were very concerned about the future of the country and very concerned about the well-being of former President Trump at that time. And so I think that we knew that this was going to be a challenging piece. During that hearing, as you mentioned, a 6-hour hearing, you could hear question after question and the inability to be able to fully articulate what actually happened and where the breach of security was. You could see through the footage, through the films, exactly where there was a lack of Secret Service security. Also, as you looked at the footage and could, and heard and were aware of how the individual and where they were positioned, and how close they were able to get to the rally area, that was clearly a challenge, I think, for her at that moment in time. And so what we're going to obviously see at this time is we're going to see the president moving forward. He is going to appoint someone very quickly. We are in a high stakes election period, so it is going to be very vital and very imperative that we move forward with someone that will be able to run the unit. It is unfortunate that this has occurred. It's unfortunate that this is happening in this very heightened security time period and this election cycle. And so she is becoming political, part of the politics of it all. I think that if we were not in this 2024 election cycle, we potentially could have seen a different outcome than what we see today.
Indeed, Maria. And as you rightly said, the president will be announcing a new head of Secret Service, at least, I think, tomorrow. Will that officially terminate Cheetle's job, even though she's yet to turn in her papers?
She has resigned. We're expecting to see the papers today. She has announced that she will be doing that just moments ago. And so we're expecting those papers to go in. But as you said, once he appoints someone, it will not immediately terminate it. It will terminate as of the date that she puts in her resignation papers. The appointment will probably have an appointment date for the next individual who will be starting So this will all be a collaborated effort. I know that her and the president have been in communication, I'm sure, to address um, moving forward, because they don't want to have any lapse of time, especially based off of where we are, knowing that we do have a new potential nominee for the Democratic Party.
Yes, and the president hasn't really said much about this, has he? The role of the Secret Service in what happened on July 13. In his statement following Cheetah's announcement, he commended her for the way she's handled, the agency up until now. But he really didn't mention, what happened on July 13, or his statement also didn't reflect how people felt about, how the Secret Service handled the situation on Saturday.
Yes, you are correct. He hasn't really said that much. Again, as you said, he supported her. I think we're in a very different period. It's very unlikely that you have a former president also running for reelection. A lot of times when you have candidates running for election, they also have their own security services as well. And so the Secret Service component that he is available to him is not only that for him running for office, but also because he's a former president. And so the lines become a bit blurred. We were in times that I think had they were not very familiar with, typically with the Secret Service and the type of security that might need to be a little bit more heightened, because he was not only a former president but also a candidate running for office. And so the president has not said much. And I think that the clear piece here is that he has stated that he believes she ran the office well, and he believes that she did a good job. And so I think now it's really going to be on to the next, to ensure that those, especially as this cycle, that security is at the utmost of importance.
What are you hearing as to, what the Secret Service could have done on July 13? Because a lot of people are upset, understandably, more Republicans than Democrats, but generally people just thinking how easily a former president, someone who had such a high profile, could have been taken down by a non-professional shooter, someone who was said to not have been really good even at shooting, but had been practicing days before the event on Saturday. What people said, some of the analysts that you've listened to, what have they said should have been done? What should have been the protocol on July 13?
Well, what is kind of being said, and we have had conversations with those who have worked in Secret Service before. And so those individuals are stating that typically they surround the perimeter area. Those of you who have been to Washington during some of these presidential rallies, typically you have blocks of streets that are blocked off for several, hours prior to, sometimes even the night before a rally such as this. The building is, I think, of the greatest concern, because typically you would also have a building that's very close to the rally area that could have this type of potential access to someone, a shooter, a gunman, an assassination attempt, which what we saw. That building would also be secured, and especially the rooftop of the building. And so I think that's really where the questions are coming, is what happened to the security around the rally, even though there were individuals inside, Secret Service agents, and also obviously security as well inside of the rally area. But what about the external perimeter areas? And were those also scouted beforehand to ensure there was very limited potential access to the former president? So that building, I think, is where the greatest concern came from, is the security of that building.
Well, I know that Kamala Harris shouldn't have any problems with security. I mean, she's still vice president of the United States. But given in light of what has happened, will security be reviewed? As she hits the campaign trail, she would be requiring a lot more security than previously expected.
We can pretty rest assured that whoever is appointed to this position, there will be a full review of the policies surrounding a vice president running for election. It'll also be policies review of a former president, because to your point, there will have to be heightened security than before, not only because of the fact that this is a sitting vice president and also a former president, but also due to the fact that there has been an assassination attempt during this election cycle. That is going to require additional support from the Secret Service agents.
So as Kamala Harris hits the campaign trail, over $81 million in campaign funding between Sunday and today. That is a record high in any campaign in the United States. She also has succeeded in, gaining the necessary signatures from the delegates in the Democratic Party. So will the party still be considering a primary to pick a nominee?
So what will happen at this time is we'll still go to the Democratic National Convention in mid to late August. That will still occur where there will be the official voting of the delegates. These delegates have been appointed from the various states. And as you stated, this appears as if she does have the consensus vote, or at least a majority of those delegates will be voting in her favor. Now, there could be, because it'll be a floor voting session, there could be other individuals that come out and say they also want to run and they want to be a part of this convention. And so though if there is someone else, then obviously there would be two individuals just because of the way this process has happened. And that she will have to be nominated on the floor. So there could be others that come forth. It is also stated at this time that because the Democratic Party is coming so tightly together and the need to show a one united front, that it is highly unlikely that a viable candidate will come forward and also try to run against her at this convention. And so it is pretty much, looked at this time that she will be the nominee and that we will see her hitting the campaign trail very heavily. And obviously, after the Democratic National Convention, being able to tout herself as the official nominee for the Democratic Party.
Maria, thanks again. So we continue with more reactions to Vice President Kamala Harris joining the race for the White House, this time from respondents in Harlem, New York. Some think her chances of winning are really good. Others say no one is going to vote for her. Campaign officials and allies have already made hundreds of calls on Harris's behalf, urging delegates to next month's Democratic Party convention to join in nominating her for president on November 5.
Probably. I think he was probably feeling the pressure, but he also, it's the party, it's greater than him. It's about the party, and it's about making sure that people get out and vote. So he made the right decision.
He did good. Pass the torch. Let the young people do their thing now.
Biden is a man that makes informed decisions, and those things usually take time. So he took his time making that decision. He knew what time it was.
Only he knows what's best for him. If he feels he made the right decision, he displayed it quite nicely the way he did it. He served his term, and that's it. But who's going to come after him, that's a whole different thing.
They said that Kamala's going to try to get her nomination, but I don't really think people really approve her either. But it's kind of like, at this point, I feel like it has been for like a few years now. It's like we're picking like the less worst option out of the two. It's kind of like we don't really have any great options, honestly. That's my opinion.
Kamala's she's worse than Joe. Or they on the same page. They about the same. But I don't think anybody's gonna vote for Kamala. No one wants to back her. She had one job, that was handling the border. And everybody in New York talk about the immigrants and stuff and how they put the immigrants ahead of the citizens. Illegal immigrants. You know what I'm saying? We believe in immigration. We just want to do it the right way.
I think if the Democrats get out and vote, then yes, she definitely has a chance to win.
Trump has a lot of things that is going bad for him. God bless him. I'm glad he didn't die, but it looks like someone else could do it. And I don't think Biden's capable of doing it no more. As far as his health-wise and everything that's going on with him. So that is the reason why I say that I think the woman will win.
I think her chances.
But in India now, home country of the vice president's mother, in Harris's ancestral village, residents of Tulsedrim Paradum prayed for her victory in the presidential election after Joe Biden announced his withdrawal from the race on Monday. Now, people there, a leafy village about 320 kilometers south of the city of Chennai, is where Harris's maternal grandfather was born more than a century ago. The villagers were proud to see a woman of Indian origin as a successful world leader, as they expected Harris to strengthen Washington's relations with New Delhi if she ends up winning the election. Harris was born to an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, both of whom immigrated to the United States to study. She visited her mother's village when she was 5 and recalls walking with her grandfather on the beach in Chennai.
We are very proud of her because a small village, a tiny village in the south side of the Madras, Tamil Nadu, will become so popular and because of one single individual. And for that we are proud.
China is condemning what it calls irresponsible remarks made by the United States on Beijing's normal activities in the Arctic region, a day after the U.S. military said Russia and China were increasingly cooperating in the Arctic, which would impact regional stability. The Pentagon report released on Monday said Russia and China's closer collaboration and growing alignment in the region was of concern. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning, at a regular news briefing on earlier today, said the U.S. has misinterpreted China's Arctic policy and made irresponsible remarks on China's normal Arctic activities in accordance with international law, adding that China is an important stakeholder in Arctic affairs. China and Russia have been working together to develop Arctic shipping routes as Russia seeks to deliver more oil and gas to China amid Western sanctions, while China seeks an alternative shipping route to reduce its dependence on the Strait of Malacca. Well, the Kremlin says Russia's cooperation with China in the Arctic is not aimed at against any other country, adding that U.S. criticism of such work is misplaced. The Pentagon noted in reports on Monday that Russia had reopened hundreds of Soviet-era military sites there, while China is eyeing mineral resources and new shipping routes. The Kremlin, when asked about the Pentagon report, said some of its contents had a confrontational flavor and that Russia's cooperation with China aimed only to foster stability. To Australia now, where police say a 43-year-old man has been charged with allegedly trafficking a teenager from Indonesia for sex work, while a woman was arrested in Jakarta for allegedly recruiting victims to be sent to Australia. The Australian Federal Police said the man was charged with 1 count of child trafficking, which carries a maximum penalty of 25 years in jail. The man is expected to appear in a Sydney court today for facilitating the travel of a 17-year-old from Indonesia to engage in sex work. The investigation into the alleged trafficking, called Operation Mirani, began in December 2022 after police received information foreign nationals in Australia were being forced into sex work.
In sex work in New South Wales. Investigators identified in December 2022, the AFP Specialist Team, Human Trafficking Team, began Operation Mirani after receiving intelligence that a number of foreign nationals were breaching their visa conditions and engaging in sex work in New South Wales. Investigators identified an Arncliffe man linked to several of these females who were engaged in sex work in Australia. The AFP shared this intelligence with the Indonesian National Police, which resulted in the execution of simultaneous search warrants in New South Wales and in Jakarta in March 2024. In Australia, search warrants were conducted at residential premises in Banksia and Arncliffe, where additional foreign nationals were identified as potential victims of human trafficking. The investigation has resulted in 7 women being removed from sexual exploitation here in New South Wales. A number of other female foreign nationals have been identified as potential victims of human trafficking. A number of other women who were still in Indonesia in Jakarta have been identified, and we will allege they were being prepared to be trafficked to Australia for the purpose of sexual exploitation. And 2 people have been arrested, 1 here in New South Wales and 1 in Jakarta in Indonesia. This has been a really complex investigation undertaken by a dedicated team of specialists in human trafficking here in Sydney. On the 10th of July, AFP investigators, as part of Operation Mirani, arrested a 43-year-old male from Arncliffe and charged him with facilitating the travel of a 17-year-old child to Australia from Indonesia for the purpose of sexual exploitation. The offence carries a maximum penalty of 25 years imprisonment.
Flights serving the eastern Sicilian city of Catania have had to be halted after an eruption from nearby Mount Etna. Etna, one of the world's most active volcanoes, has seen intense activity in recent days, spewing hot ash and lava. The airport of Catania had already been closed earlier this month due to ash in the sky. It acts as a hub for the east of Sicily and attracts more arrivals than the capital of Palermo. The airport operator said this brings fresh travel woes during the peak summer tourist season. It's also led to the suspension of all incoming and outgoing flights. We switch now to the African continent. Rescue teams have so far retrieved bodies of 157 people killed in 2 slides in southern Ethiopia. The landslides occurred on Sunday evening and Monday morning after heavy rains in a remote mountainous area of the Gopher zone. The local authorities said the search for survivors is continuing vigorously, but that the death toll could yet increase. Footage shows hundreds of people gathered at the scene and others digging the dirt in search of people trapped underneath. In the background, a hillside can be seen partially collapsed and a large patch of red earth has been exposed. Now in South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa says the country is not in the hopeless state as some opposition parties claim. He also emphasizes that the government of national unity is not a fleeting convenience. President Ramaphosa made the remarks while responding to Friday's marathon debate on his opening of Parliament address. He urged all parties to work together for the nation's progress. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Samosa, reports.
President Cyril Ramaphosa said the country had entered a new era of politics, which was one of hope and optimism. The president added that South Africa should not lose sight of how far it had come since the dawn of democracy 30 years ago.
That this parliament should become the epicenter of the advancement of the will of the people of South Africa. Much of what has been said during this debate has confirmed that we have entered a new era in South African politics. It is an era of hope. It is an era of optimism for the people of our country and for its future.
Responding to the debate on his opening of Parliament address, Ramaphosa appealed to the leader of the economic freedom fighters, Julius Malema, to refrain from personal attacks on him and his family.
It's important, Honorable Malema, that as we debate, we should play the ball and not the man. Now, you spend a considerable amount of time playing me, the man. What is important in building this country is to play the ball of development.
According to Ramaphosa, GNU parties agreed not to claim political victories over the implementation of policy. He emphasized that the door to the GNU remained open for collaboration. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, Kenyans are denying President Ruto's allegations that external forces are sponsoring the wave of deadly protests over tax policy. They claim the accusations are unsubstantiated and rumors. Some reacted with bemusement at the allegations of external meddling, saying high unemployment is behind the protests. On July 15, Mr. Ruto accused U.S. charity Ford Foundation, which he said was sponsoring violence and mayhem in Kenya. The charity, founded by Henry Ford of Ford Motors, has denied the accusation. Online youth communities gave a rallying cry for a fresh wave of protests this week, including occupation of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport.
I don't think the accusations are right. I think this protest is mostly Gen Z influenced. I don't think there are any external forces for this protest. There might be internal forces, but external, I don't think so, because I can say 80 or 90% is Gen Z influence. Probably the 10% might be people who are opportunists who want to take advantage. But to me, I think it's purely 80 to 90% Gen Z influence.
Ford Foundation. Just and from the president, seriously, to be honest. But I think it's a nice company from the way I viewed on the TV, so I don't think they have any problem. I think maybe you should have concrete evidence to ensure he's not blaming them on something they have not done. So I think they are innocent unless they're guilty of charge.
What do you think about this?
I may feel Gen Zs are they drive themselves. No one is behind their campaigns because they feel if they don't have jobs, we will see people on the streets, you know. So I think they are self-driven.
Ford Foundation. That came up during William Samoei Ruto's speech to the audience, saying that there are people who are financing the youths. And I've never heard of Ford Foundation before. That was the first time hearing it from our president. And if it's an external force, I don't know yet. But personally, that was my first time listening about or hearing about the Ford Foundation. There are no external forces. They are just Gen Z driven, especially because we as the Gen Zs, we have decided that we're coming out as a force to communicate what we feel, that we want good governance in our country. And when you talk about external forces, personally, those are rumors to me. Yeah.
And in Morocco, 100 chess players from various countries had joined the Blitz Chess Marathon in the northern city of Tétouan in an attempt to break the Guinness World Record for the most number of matches held in 24 hours. The competition is organized by the Tétouan Center for Modern Arts, where the contestants are seen playing their matches in immersed concentration. Following the games, an awards ceremony is also held, where winners are granted prizes and applauded by the audience. The competition garnered the participation of several well-known Moroccan and international chess masters and had been a great joy for the contestants. The 2024 Blitz Chess Marathon in Tétouan is the second edition of the tournament, with the first being won by Moroccan chess master Yasser Al-Hajj Al-Khalti.
I'm Selima. I'm 11 years old, and right now I'm in a Blitz Marathon with 23 rounds, and it's really wonderful and amazing. I've been here last year. There were 18 rounds, and I really enjoyed the tournament, and I'm sure that it will be even better this year.
Now, fasten your harnesses because you will need to take a breath and fly out to the rooftops of central Berlin from the top of a city hotel. Daredevil's canal soar off the building's edge on Europe's highest swing. It's a dizzying 120 meters over Berlin's Alexanderplatz. Run by Vertical Sports in collaboration with Bungee.de, the swing offers visitors a chance to buckle up and take in the city from a whole new angle and the odd sweaty palm. The team members are on hand to attach swingers into a safety harness and push them at their chosen speed. The hotel lift goes up to the 35th floor with another 2 meters on foot, where a panoramic bar offers some Dutch courage or a post-swing reward. As we end the program, you can escape Dubai's extreme summer heat just by stepping into a reimagined world filled with vibrant and interactive experiences that combine art with technology and redefining traditional entertainment parks. From mirror rooms, light shows to illuminated gardens, Aya Universe, a 40,000 square foot park of transports visitors to another dimension through 12 immersive rooms filled with futuristic art installations. It sure looks magical. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Rani.